It's time for Twig. This week in Google, Jeff Jarvis, Stacey Higginbotham, Mathew Ingram joins us. We'll talk about Android Q, no dessert for you. The new Google Pixel 3a versus the Google Pixel 4. Privacy fundamentalism, and why you might want to wipe your phone before you cross the border. It's all coming up next on Twig.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twig.
This is Twig. This week in Google, episode 523, recorded Wednesday, August 28th, 2019. Pretty fly for a Fi guy. This week in Google is brought to you by Zapier. Zapier connects all your business software and handles the work for you so you can focus on what matters most. Right now through November, go to zapier.com/twig for your free 14-day trial. And by Monday.com. Monday.com helps teams manage work and meet deadlines while building a culture of transparency. Manage all your core business activities in one place. Learn more at Monday.com/twig. It's time for Twig this week in Google. Time to talk about Facebook and Google and Twitter and media and all that stuff. Jeff Jarvis at a media conference in Austin, Texas. Hello, Jeff.
Hello. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
Good. I saw Padres back.
Temporarily, he was visiting
that's great.
From Rome. Well, he's going back in a week or two to Rome. But yeah, it was nice to have him on Twit. It's always great to have Father Robert. Yeah, he's great. He was at DEF CON, the hacker convention. He brought the DEF CON badge, which was very cool. We talked about it on Twit this week.
Wait. We got to come back to that. The Padre at DEF CON, we got to hear more about.
I know, isn't that funny? You know? Also here's Stacey Higginbotham from StaceyOnIoT.com. Hello. She remembers so fondly those days at GigaOM. She has not changed her Twitter handle. She's still at GigaStacey.
Why would you want to change your Twitter handle? It's done.
It's done. It's cooked no matter what.
I like it. I'm like
3 jobs ago and it still doesn't matter.
I could be Yada Stacey now because there's even more data. Even more data in my head.
Giga Stacey, Yada Stacey, Peta Stacey, not good. Mathew Ingram is also here. He's just at Matthew I on the Twitter. Former GigaOM alumna. Actually, you're always an alumnus of GigaOM. He's currently chief digital writer at the Columbia Journalism Review. Hi, Mathew.
Hi.
Good to see you. So, Stacey, you, given an opportunity, and Google has been pretty, forthright about this new Pixel 4 phone, which they probably will announce in probably in October. We've seen leaks of the back and the front. Google themselves have published a picture of the back. We've heard a lot about the Soli engine, the new cameras, and you decided to take this week and buy a Pixel 3a. What the what?
Yes. I know, but okay, hear me out. I have really good reasons, and I think a lot of other people are going to have these reasons, and it's not just to make Karsten feel better and get on the Karsten train.
Why would it make Karsten feel better?
He told me he wanted to get people to buy the 3A.
You have a 3A? Really phone.
I love the 3A. It's an awesome phone. Everyone should buy one.
I agree.
What?
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
Whoa.
So here's my logic, and this is important, when I went on to buy it today, the 3A costs $399.
Pretty good
there are no
price.
discounts.
Pretty good price.
It's a good price for a really good phone. It has night sight. It has all the things that I love and want and currently have on my Pixel 2. And I'm graduating from that.
It's a good upgrade to the Pixel 2. I'd agree. Yeah. And you're giving your daughter the Pixel 2?
She gets the Pixel 2. But the Pixel 3 and the Pixel 3 XL are on sale. So the Pixel 3 was $499. So I sat there looking at the two phones and I'm like, which do I want?
$300 off right now.
Yeah, so that was it. But I didn't see a reason to pay $100 more for a phone. And part of it is this phone is really good. I love my 2A. It takes great photos, which is the biggest thing I probably ask of my phone right now. And when I look at the 4, because I know I was thinking about sticking around for that because I wanted to try Soli. But the Google Nest Hub Max, so many words in such a random order, that's going to have Project Solely in it. So now I can try it on a smart home device, which is actually where it belongs.
Yeah, because gestures.
So that's all my logic.
We talked about that last week. Gestures make a lot more sense out of devices sitting on a counter than they do with your phone right here. All right.
Yes.
Are you using Fi? What are you using for the carrier?
I actually use Verizon. I don't use Fi.
Jeff, you're a Fi guy.
I'm a half Fi guy.
Half
Pretty
Fi.
fly for a Fi
My
guy.
international phone is Fi, but my this phone is AT&T.
Pretty fly for a Fi guy. I like it, Matthew. I like
Show
it.
title.
So I recently resurrected my because I've been kind of going on a Samsung kick and just got the Note 10 Plus and stuff. But they pushed out an update to the beta of Android 10, which is now the official name, on the Pixel 3 XL. And it actually fixed. I was having problems with the betas, but this has been very stable. I think we're getting close. In fact, rumor has it September 3rd, we will get the final version of Android 10. At least that's the smart money's betting on that. And I have to say, this is a great phone. I'm looking forward to the Pixel 4, though. I will buy it, as well as the new iPhone 11 Pro, or whatever they call it, as well as the Note 10
I just want my
Plus.
Pixel book.
But you buy everything, Leo.
I have to
Yeah,
for review purposes, so I don't, and I don't mind. I mean, I got a budget to do that. That's part of the deal.
Should I give up my Huawei P20?
No.
That's a darn good phone.
Karsten went right on the
Karsten
mark.
says no.
Karsten has
It's a darn good
opinions.
phone. The P20, I have a P20 somewhere. It has
It's a
it's
great phone.
great camera. It's a little
Great
out of date now. They have more recent.
Cameras are good.
I have to say, though, any modern phone is going to have a pretty good camera. The Note 10
Yeah. No,
Plus
you're
is
right.
excellent. 10. Any good phone, any modern phone. I'm curious, really curious what Google's going to do with the cameras in the Pixel 4.
I want to wait and see what happens. Like, does the Huawei just stop updating suddenly? Do Google apps disappear and then I can't reinstall them? What's going to happen?
Oh, good question.
Well, isn't Huawei in purgatory right now, or is it limbo?
Oh, yeah.
Google says the Mate 30 can't be sold with licensed Android or licensed Google apps. So the newer Huawei phone, and Huawei, by the way, says that's okay. We're ready with our own operating system. But who would want that if you have a choice? Maybe, well, if you're in China, maybe you would. But
It's real time, live backup to
China,
China, yeah.
to China.
So all your files are kept safe.
If you lose your phone, you can petition the government for all of them back.
We make that joke about the NSA. We've been doing that for years. So, nice to have two governments backing your data up.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be a very interesting fall. There's really good phones out there, and there isn't anything. I think, Stacey, honestly, is perfectly reasonable, especially at that price, to get a 3A, because there isn't going to be anything that's going to make you go, "Oh God!"
But isn't that
There's
the
gonna be
problem
face
with the
unlock.
phone market right now? Like, there's
Right.
lots of the phones that people have that
Nothing to
are one
distinguish
generation,
them.
even two generations. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're still great phones.
Yeah.
And there's nothing really.
Wait a minute.
I was like-
I
Sorry.
think
I thought maybe
I
you stepped
think-
on
It's quite-
something. Or,
Quite the sound, Jeff. What is your
All right.
dissent?
I think you could make Stacey feel really awful if you want to do this.
I don't. That's the problem.
for it.
You're
Do it.
right. I
Yeah,
could.
let's do it.
Just because
Make-
Stacey, more than anyone, period, I know, who understands and doesn't make fun of gestures. I want to see you playing with the gestures on a Pixel 4.
You can
I
see
wanna
me
see
play with it on a
you-
hub.
No, because we
Not
make
the
fun of
same.
it with the phone and all this, and you've got to say, no, Jeff, you're full of crap. Let me show you. I think you,
Well, I don't-
more than anyone, should be that person.
See, this is I don't believe in it on a phone. But if Leo, you want to send me the Pixel 4, then I will. I will gesture.
I have gestures in
away.
the Note 10 Plus because that stylus has you. In fact, the very first part of the onboarding with the Note 10 Plus is they say, "Okay, now take out the stylus, press the button, and do some." And you go clockwise, counterclockwise, tap, and
Used it once since then.
that's it once. But you could have. I saw an
no,
ad.
Fine.
I saw an ad where you could have a presentation on your Note 10 Plus, and while you're showing the client, who's got to, of course, get very close to your phone to see this presentation, and you can just swipe in the air with your pen and go to the next slide. Next slide.
I don't want to be, Debbie Downer, but are that many people really going to do gestures? I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
Not
lots of
on the
people will do
phone.
it.
That's why I'm like,
I just don't see it. I do
see, and I think you're right, Stacey, in the kitchen where your hub max will be. I do see the idea that, you've got your hands
page flipping,
and you're going like that, or you're going stop, or
I
could see that.
Although
voice works well for that too, right?
We need a Minority Report thing where you have to put on a glove and then you can
that was Falmouth Labs had that.
No,
they had that forearm thing that actually did exactly
Leo's
that.
rubber suit.
Yeah, and then don't talk about my rubber suit. Those are the bad old days. Apple had a Magic Leap device that you put in front of your screen and you could gesture, and it never caught on. Nobody was really that interested in it. So
somebody in the chat room did mention driving. It could be. I could see it being useful for that.
That's a good
Hands on
point.
the wheel, young man.
Waze,
Both hands on the wheel.
Waze has used that for some time. One of the problems with Waze is they want you to report hazards, police in the road, whatever, but you can't really do it without fiddling with the phone, except they do have, I doubt anybody uses it, but they have a gesture. You could wave, you can wave and they've had that for years. You wave your hand over the phone and it says, "Oh, what would you like to report?"
That.
Yeah.
What?
Interesting.
Do you have to be
You
open
just
in the phone? What?
Waze
Can you
is
just
running.
shout up or?
Yeah, I can't remember what the gesture was. Waze is running in your phone, right? Because you're using it, right?
Okay.
And then if in there, and maybe they've taken it out since, but I used it at least 2 or 3 years ago. The gestures.
You turn it on or something, or
yeah, it's in the settings. Let me see if I can find it. I can never use the Waze interface. I don't know what.
It's
take
not
me home. It's
intuitive.
24
I
hours
don't
and
know
24
what to
minutes.
tap here. I always end up tapping carpool, and I don't know. I don't want to carpool. I don't. So I don't know what to tap in here to start select vehicle type.
We need a UX show just for stuff like this.
Yeah. Although,
just to critique UX.
I will say to you guys, and I don't know if you want to talk about this because it is not Google related at all, but last week on Thursday, I was at Microsoft.
Did that ever bother us?
Yeah, that's
I know.
When did that ever stop anybody?
You have heard
tried
this
to
show, Stacey.
I try to stick to the Google.
Sorry, go ahead.
I tried on the Microsoft HoloLens too. And if you want to see Stacey running around doing strange gestures, that is part of it was getting used to like the gestures. And the HoloLens 2 is actually really amazing compared to the HoloLens 1 and other AR experiences I've had. But they also have eye tracking. So when I looked at things, I could click, what's the word for that? I could
blink.
I could look at something and I didn't need to blink. I just looked at it. And if I looked at it for long enough, it would like go to the next slide. So the word next is there. I would look at it and it would go. It was pretty cool. Although I was very focused and I got so focused trying to I am looking at you, that I started getting a headache. So I had to stop.
Someone just pointed out someone pointed out that you running around doing strange gestures would make a very successful YouTube channel. So, in case you're thinking of branching out.
IoT ballet.
Okay, yeah. I'm like, I don't know about that. My funny gestures are pretty.
Learning gestures with Stacey Higginbotham.
I mean, and it was very intuitive. And they have this beautiful little bird that'll fly to your hand and hangs out there, and you're like, "Hello, bird."
Oh, that's kind of weird though, and it doesn't land quite right?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
and if you look at it too long, it explodes.
It feels very primitive still to me, but
no, I thought it was okay.
I understand the benefit.
Of course, it's primitive.
These gestures are anyway. Go ahead, Stacey.
Those gestures, although I did if I looked at they had a thing where if I looked at something and I said explode, the thing would explode.
That's pretty cool.
So
and if it was a bird?
And also if I went, not the bird, it was gems.
Okay. All right.
There was no exploding birds.
Gyms? Wait a minute, exploding gyms? Is that J-I-M or
Gem?
No, G-E-M.
G-Y-M? Oh, gems. Exploding gems.
Gemstones. How about gem? I'll just keep it.
Okay, so like a game, like exploding gems.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, yeah.
It was the same thing you used to calibrate. Is you would watch them, and then afterwards, and there's some amazing silicon firepower in there. Oh my God!
Cool.
But
you're such a geek.
Oh, I know. But it was. I mean, like the processor they built for this is pretty awesome. I'm going to write about it for sure because I am still excited.
ARM chip?
It is. I don't know the architecture actually. I feel like they did their own. It was okay. Don't ask me these questions yet because I'm still writing, and until I finish writing, I won't have all the words in my brain. But I will come back to you and tell you about it.
Okay.
I gotta say, exploding gems would also be pretty cool.
It is going to be not Android Quince Pie, Android Quince Jelly, Android. It's going to be Android 10. They're dumping the desserts, and I have a little regret on that. But I think Google's absolutely correct that was a dopey idea, and it didn't work globally.
It was cute. Come on, it was cute.
And you know what was cute was the unveiling of the statue on the Googleplex.
But the problem now
between
is, if you go back there now, they're all falling apart.
Oh, are they really?
It is like a terrible
old amusement park. A bad
abandoned for 10 years.
Right.
Five Nights at Freddy's. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, that's depressing.
Okay.
Oh.
Why didn't they build them to? I guess they just didn't care to build them to last. Technologies
they
ever
were meant to
changing?
be for
fiberglass.
They're
Yeah.
Fiberglass.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fancy road.
Wow. I wonder if there's
They
any...
should turn it into a putt-putt course.
You seen it?
I don't
want to
putt-putt course.
That's
if I was
perfect.
writing a hot take, if I was still in the hot take business, I would be writing about how this is a perfect example of how Google used to be fun and is now boring. I liked it a lot better when it was fun.
Yeah, the stick of the lollipop is rusty. There's cupcake. There's ice cream sandwich.
Look fine.
Eclair, gingerbread, honeycomb. Up close, they don't look so good.
No.
Yeah, they're a little ratty. It really does look like an abandoned amusement park or a roadside attraction that's seen better days, you know? Wow. Ice cream sundae. Yeah, so that's it.
Honeycomb.
Honeycomb,
right.
yeah. That was the tablet OS that was only briefly used. Kit Kat.
So Android 10 is just going to be a big number 10.
Just a 10. And I think that's the way it should be.
Boring.
What is it with the number 10?
Well, at least
by
it's
the
not
way?
a big X.
Mac OS 10,
true.
Windows 10, iPhone 10s, Note 10, and now Android 10.
Wi-Fi 6, 5G.
Don't give me counterexamples. I'm on a roll. I think I've come up with enough 10s to say that there seems to be in the tech industry a affinity for 10, or is it just by accident?
It's big round numbers, my friend.
Big round numbers. And no one wants to go to 11.
Sounds evil. 11 sounds evil.
Spinal Tap wants it to go to 11.
Right.
This goes to 11. Yeah, come on.
But yeah, actually, if you think about it, volume knobs, pre-Spinal Tap.
Android goes to 11.
No, then that becomes a joke. I think still most knobs stop at 10, don't they? There's a show title for you. Completely ambiguous. We are actually already 10 minutes in.
We are going to 11.
Replete with show titles, including Pretty Fly for a Fi Guy and Exploding Gyms. So, so I think we should just stop now.
Someone pointed out that Twig could stand for This Week in Interactive Gestures with Stacey Higginbotham.
Oh,
I would watch.
They're not interactive if I can't see anyone else, though, right?
You could just stand there. It'd be kind of like watching synchronized swimming.
Yeah, exactly.
Strike a pose. Vogue.
I'm going to have to work on my poses. I'll get on that.
I think this is the new thing, yeah. Which beats the new show we came up with for Paul Thurrott earlier today, which is Day Drinking with Paul.
Oh, I like that show idea.
That'd be good. I'd watch that.
There's a couple of those on YouTube already.
Yeah, Day Drinking.
Yeah.
It's the new
day drinking and mukbang. Day drinking mukbang.
So there's nothing much more to say about Android 10 except that's it. And as I said, the rumor, and this comes from pretty flimsy sources, is that it not as flimsy as the sources on MSNBC last night, but flimsy sources that September 3rd will be and I know it wasn't Lawrence O'Donnell, that September 3rd will be the day, which would make sense for Android 10, which means if you have your Pixel 3a or your Pixel XL or an essential phone, a number of other phones, you can just update and you'll have the latest, greatest new OS. Enough to say about that. I think we should defer to the All About Android folks for the rest of that. How about this for you, Jeff Jarvis? And we got to get Kevin Tofel's take on this, but Google has a new Chromebook, sort of.
Yeah.
They're teaming up with Dell to make enterprise-grade Chromebooks based on the Dell Latitude 5300 and 5400. And when I say enterprise, I mean these things are loaded. 13 and 14-inch screens, respectively, 1080p, up to 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM, up to a terabyte of enterprise-class SSDs, LTE radios.
Ooh.
Yeah. Now, they're not very attractive. These are these are the laptops you get from work that nobody ever got real excited about, but hey, it'll be pretty robust. What do you think? Maybe that's
I think it's a good idea. I think going with Dell was a good idea. They're trying to push this beyond education into enterprises. By the way, I'm pretty sure if you watch Succession that they use Chromebooks.
Yeah, it
really?
does look like a Chromebook. Yeah.
Yeah.
Billions is a much
Evil
better
Empire.
show. I've never gotten into Succession.
I love Succession. In fact, season 2,
tried.
it's the worst family in the world.
Yeah.
A little bit.
It's so
I
good.
I don't know.
Oh, come on. And Roman's like put downs. There's a whole now thing. Apparently, he's encouraged to ad lib, and the actor said I had to go around and apologize because I would go off on extras on the set, and I had to afterwards say, that's not me. That's Roman. It's not me.
So back to Dell.
All right. So you think they're using Chromebooks, even though they're the richest people, huh?
But I think you make an interesting point about the kind of look of them, the Dell look of them. So I'm Jeff's book of the day. I'm reading an unbelievably fascinating book that you would, if you saw this title, you would never imagine you'd want to read it for more than 2 pages. Track Changes: A Literary History of Word Processing.
Oh my God! And even the typeface is horrific.
Wow.
Oh.
It's brilliant. It's wonderful. It's just delightful.
I can't wait to read it.
It goes back to the earliest word. It's from 2016. I found it in a used bookstore in Palo Alto.
Oh, it's out.
And it's a Harvard Belknap book, but it's
I doubt it'll be
just,
on Audible.
No.
You're gonna have to read this one with your eyes.
And then I hit Control KS, and my life changed.
Well, yeah, I went through. I found the old WordStar manual, so I can put in examples. I'm writing something now.
Oh, that's
going
fun.
through memory lane about all this.
Yeah,
but it goes back on
to
the tilde.
What's the first word processor?
Well, there's a debate about that. There's the IBM X. What was it called?
Well, there was dedicated word processors like the Wang.
Oh yeah, all that.
Right.
But the first micro word processor, was it Electric Pencil? I feel like that might have been the first one on micros.
Probably. There was also the IBM MTST.
Wow.
And this they marketed as a $10,000 thing. This has been years ago.
So that was a standalone.
70s.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Len Dayton had one moved into his house. They had to have a crane move it into his house.
Oh my God! Wait a minute! I want this. It's this IBM Selectric built into its own desk.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
It had magnetic tape recording and playback facilities.
That's the only way you could edit, is you'd play back the tape.
Oh, it had automated word wrap.
Per cassette.
There was no screen.
No, none.
Oh.
So they talk in the book about how you had to think like a tape. You had to realize that
electromechanical relays.
Continuous string of characters And then when you wanted to insert something or delete something, you had to go back to that point with the printer and boom, and stop and then delete it. And you were editing the tape this way. This is how you had to think. Very McLuhan.
Wow. All right, this I've got to find. All right, we're going to be working for this here, looking for this. Jim Henson in 1964
did an ad for, there's a video.
Did an ad for it. You ready? Here we go. It's called this. Yes, Jim Henson, Muppet Guy, before he was Muppet Guy. This is the IBM. I don't believe we'll get taken down for showing this.
Made a character for the machine called Muppet.
What? This is wild. This is Henson must have been on acid. This is in the 60s.
This is some Dark Crystal stuff right here.
Wow. So
well, you can't stop progress.
There's a train.
It's not a question of stopping it so much as just keeping up with it.
There's a jet.
But IBM artwork is related to the paperwork explosion.
The paperwork.
Specifically, the paperwork in an office.
This is Jim Henson. This is great.
I see all of these people as Muppets.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. What?
I can see all of these people as Muppets.
Yes.
Yeah, that first guy looked like the guy in the balcony.
That was Statler. Yeah, Statler and Waldorf.
That was Statler. Wow, it's so loud I can't.
Paperwork explosion.
There's always been a lot of paperwork in an office.
That's a Muppet.
But today,
That's
there's
a
more
Muppet.
paperwork than ever before.
There's more than ever before.
Wow.
That's the former FBI director. That's Statler.
That is Statler. That is
There always
Statler.
seemed to be enough time and people to do the paperwork.
There always seemed to be enough time.
Can you imagine seeing this in 1964?
This is so creepy. It's like Clockwork Orange.
To do the paperwork.
There always seemed to be enough time and people to do the paperwork.
This is so
There isn't.
Today, there isn't enough time.
Today,
avant-garde.
there aren't enough people.
Yeah.
Rocket launching.
Freudian moment.
Cars, helicopters, big office buildings, trains, planes, satellite.
Today, everyone has to spend more time on paperwork. Management has to spend more time on paperwork.
Secretaries have to spend
More time on paperwork.
This is
Companies have to spend more time.
very freeform.
Salesmen, brokers,
Engineers,
I
accountants.
feel like I took the brown acid.
This is whatever it was. This is 5 years before Woodstock.
Office managers.
This is the Kingston Trio era.
Keepers. Everybody has to spend more time on paperwork.
And again, the exploding paperwork.
Is there a point?
We haven't seen the MT yet. Here's Waldorf again.
Here's Statler.
Or Statler.
Seems to me we could use some help.
When are we going to see the IBM?
I understand that IBM has a cordless dictating unit.
A cordless dictating unit.
MTST can type 150 words a minute error-free. That's remarkable.
The IBM Office Products Division representative
Under the Brooklyn Bridge.
Dictation.
I understood that. But what did he mean by error-free dictation? I think I'll call it.
Wait a minute.
Has always been one of the leaders in the field
Is
of
that John Turturro?
a machine that IBM makes called an MTST.
Install a whole line of IBM Office products throughout the office.
They have yet to show it.
IBM can help you with the time it takes to do the paperwork.
Oh, I hear the Selectric typing. There it is.
Holy cow.
Look at this thing.
With IBM dictation equipment, I can get 4 times as much thinking recorded as I can.
So that was one of those dictaphone type things, right? Like they had a big band.
The IBM MTST here turns rough draft into error-free copy automatically at the rate of a page
Oh, it
every 2
has
minutes.
paper tape and a
Used
Selectric.
systematically throughout an office, these IBM machines can increase people's
I
productivity.
wonder
by
how many they
50%.
sold of these.
And for the thinking that requires printed distribution, there's the IBM Selectric Composer.
Look at the size of
IBM
the
machines
thing.
can do the work.
So that people have time to think.
Machines should do the work.
That's what they're best at. People should do the thinking. That's what they're best at. Machines should work. People
Should think.
Machines should work.
people
Machines should work.
This is
Jesus.
subversive as
This is
hell.
dark. This is
So
dark.
I don't do much work anymore.
I'm too busy thinking.
I want to know who that guy is.
Oh my God! How did he get IBM to pay for that?
So he previously, according to the book, he previously designed a mascot character for the electric typewriter division called Rolf, ROWLF.
Rolf,
if you can find that
like Rolf the dog.
Rolf.
Yeah, Rolf the dog
so.
who plays the piano.
Is the piano player.
He's amazing.
Wow, this is amazing.
So let me.
So he just basically reused his old stuff.
The music was composed by Raymond Scott. Is deliberately jarring.
So there is at openculture.com a whole collection of the surreal 1960s films and commercials of Jim Henson. I guess
really?
I guess he did a lot of stuff like this. And apparently IBM, when they hired him, knew what they were getting.
Yeah, if you look up the IBM Muppet Show, so he made a bunch of short films for IBM, and in fact, he used the Cookie Monster in one of them.
Huh. I'm loving it. I'm just loving it. That's
McDonald's.
That's credit where it's due again.
Wild.
Credit where it's due.
I discovered that in Track Changes, a literary history of word processing by Mathew Kirschenbaum. I'm telling you, it's entertaining as hell.
I want to get that, but you can't. It's probably out of print.
You can go. Do you know Bookfinder.com?
Yes, that's
best thing there is on the web. Best thing.
Oh, actually, it's on Amazon in hardcover, $21.15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I paid $26 for it.
Look at that.
You got taken.
Yep. You should have checked Amazon. There. And they even have an e-textbook version of it, which I think that means you only rent it, right?
Yeah. Because this goes through, so I did a lot of reminiscing then about my Osborne 1 and WordStar versus, and I hated WordPerfect and Perfect Word and Xywrite. I hated
Xywrite.
Oh, Xywrite. I remember using Xywrite.
My parents use it.
My wife had to train all the time.
Thanks a lot,
Xywrite.
So mean, Stacey.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
so mean.
My grandparents told me about Xywrite.
Oh, yeah. I think I saw a painting on a cave wall about it.
People who think Stacey's nice, just replay that moment.
It's subtly mean. That's what I love about it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just throwing my 2 cents in there for, hey. Oh.
I'm buying it. You're showing me buying it, aren't you? Wait a minute. Our records show you already have track changes.
What?
What? Oh, man. I bought it twice.
How?
I should start tracking these changes a little bit better. Apparently, I bought this book once before.
The last time Jeff talked about
Is this real life? Maybe something happened with that movie, and I've gone back in time or forward in time. That's weird.
So I was there. I thought I was there at the invention of WYSIWIG.
Wow.
The term. Turns out it was actually used early by Stanford SRI people. Because you know what it's based on? You know what you see is what you get came from? Let's see if Stacey knows this. The kid.
Did
my grandparents used to say that.
You know
my
cultural
guess
reference?
would be the Army, because all good acronyms come from the Army.
Come from the Army.
Flip Wilson, as Geraldine said, what you see is what you get.
What you get. I remember that.
Who is Flip Wilson?
Okay, let's not go there. Let's not go there. So a really, really old comedian.
Have you heard of Laugh-In?
Yes. Oh, yes. That was from the 60s.
He was on Laugh-In.
Same time frame.
Okay, I was not alive in the 60s, so that.
Thanks a lot, Stacey.
I thought he was on the Sonny and Cher.
I was protesting a war when you were
giving up the sugar.
I ain't giving up nothing, honey. What you see is what you get.
Then why the Diet 7-Up, Mama?
Because Diet 7-Up doesn't have that stale diet taste. It's crisp, light, and delicious, just like me.
Want a terpsichore around the floor?
You better watch your mouth, or I can kill after you. Somebody hold my Diet 7-Up. I hope you fall.
Diet 7-Up, the only thing you give up.
And there you go, a little trip back in time. That's
Flip Wilson.
1977.
Yeah, because I remember that.
Flip Wilson.
Geraldine, yeah.
What you see is what you get. Geraldine.
Yeah, I was born in 1978. So.
Shut up. You want to see another one?
No.
Come on, more Flip Wilson.
Google.
Here. Here she is with Jim Brown.
Oh, no.
All right, we'll stop it right here.
Anyway, Google Flip Wilson.
Yeah, Google Flip Wilson, kids.
It's worth it.
Visit your local library. So she said it first, but of course that was in a different context.
Right. So then,
Jeff, when did you think that you were? You said you thought you were at the invention.
I was at a conference. I don't know if you ever heard of these, Matthew. The Siebold conferences.
Oh, Siebold, yeah,
yeah.
Siebold was a big deal back in the day.
My parents told me about
conferences. You. And so this is where we talked about things like the first pagination. This is way early days, my children. And we finally saw a presentation of actually showing you text on the screen the way it would look in print, even justified and changing as you typed. This was miraculous. Hyphenation justification was a big deal. And John Siebold got up and he said, well, what you see, what you get. And he wrote down WYS, so on.
Yeah.
And he got up and then he said, I think that's pronounced WYSIWIG.
Ah. He probably was. That was the first time it was pronounced. Although, as your book no doubt told you, it was Xerox Alto that had the first.
Exactly.
Yeah, the WYSIWIG.
The first effort.
Screens.
Were you there when Doug Engelbart demonstrated the mouse that time?
No, I wasn't.
What do they call it? The greatest demo of all time. The mother of all
greatest
demos.
Demo of all demos.
We had Doug has passed away since, but he invented the mouse. And we had him on the old Screensavers show when he was fairly old at the time, and he brought the original mouse, which was a fairly large wooden box. And he talked about this mother of all demos, which, by the way, is available if you want to see it on YouTube.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's the first appearance of mice, WYSIWIG, lots of the things that we take for granted today. And at the time, it was pretty forward thinking. Yeah. Well,
Stacey, what was the first word processing software you used? Microsoft Word?
Probably. I remember my mom used WordStar for writing her thesis when I was
you did it again.
Kid. What?
Well, I used.
She can't help it.
WordStar was great.
She's a child.
I love WordStar.
The world divided itself between WordPerfect and WordStar users. And then along comes Microsoft Word and then sweeps everything off the table. It really took over the world.
That's the first thing I used.
Probably was.
And I hand wrote all of my assignments until I was probably in 8th or 9th grade, I think.
You didn't use a typewriter?
Oh, God, no.
You never had to do a typewriter, huh?
No, I did have to do, was it a computer literacy class or was it a typing class that was actually computer literacy?
Oh, interesting.
But I remember learning Excel.
Here's something you didn't have to
I'm in love with Stacey's mom.
Stacey's
I hate that song.
Stacey's mom has got it going on.
Song.
Yeah.
Sorry
There's
about
an amazing jazz version of that.
Really?
Yeah.
Fountains of Wayne, isn't it?
Yes.
Fountains of Wayne?
One of my favorite groups of all time, and a great place to buy some fountains. It's a great store in Wayne, New Jersey.
Yeah, it is.
Yes. Just outside of Bedminster.
Shall I, from the WordStar manual, a dramatic reading of the instructions to move a block of text.
Oh, wait till you hear this, kids.
Oh, okay.
1. Put cursor. By the way, I had to explain to people what a cursor was. It was a whole new concept. Put cursor on first character. Type Control-KB to mark start. Number 2. Put cursor over last character. Type Control-KK to mark end. Parenthesis. For end line, use start next line to include return. There are entire philosophy classes trying to parse just that sentence. Number 3.
Hear people unsubscribing.
Do this, Matthew. Put cursor at destination. Type Control-KV to move the text or Control-KC to make a duplicate copy.
I remember all of these
undisplay markers afterwards, use Control-KH. Control-KB and Control-KK may be entered in either order with or without other intervening commands. All above commands are on the Control-K menu.
We need a hip-hop track. Backing.
Now this is what got me through
Easy Script for the Commodore 64.
Yeah.
It's advanced professional word processing.
Nice.
Professional.
Made it all the way through high school.
Do you know where the term cursor came from, Jeff?
I'm thinking slide rules.
I don't know.
The first time I heard the word cursor was a slide rule.
Yeah, it's the name for the little transparent
I didn't know that.
gizmo on the slide rule.
Well, that concludes this episode of This Week in Geezers. Tune in next week.
Poor Stacey.
We're going to have Stacey's mom on.
I'm just going to be back here, recollecting the sound of the dot matrix printer, and that's about it.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about this Levandowski story? This is wild. So we've been talking about this for a long time. Anthony Levandowski was a star at Google, left Google and went to Uber, actually to Otto, right, which is a self-driving truck. He was at Waymo, went to the self-driving truck company Otto. I guess he ended up at Uber.
Google complained at the time, right?
Google complained at the time and sued, but it is rare that a civil suit turns into a criminal action. Federal prosecutors yesterday charged Levandowski with 33 counts of theft and attempted theft of trade secrets from Google. He was arraigned in San Jose, posted $2 million bail, and was ordered to wear an ankle monitor after prosecutors argued he's a flight risk. So this...
Because he could just call a truck to take him wherever he wants.
Yeah. So
they said he downloaded 14,000 documents, I think.
Yeah.
And Uber paid
and he claims
Waymo
that he did that for work.
Yes, but on his civil thing, Uber settled with Waymo. Uber settled with Google.
So the civil suit was over.
Yeah, they settled for $245 million. It was a lot of money.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
So, but then the judge was like, you know what? This doesn't look civil. This looks criminal.
Holy cow! So the judge decided, okay, we're going to continue to pursue this.
It is unusual, like to have not just to have a civil suit that's settled then picked up, but made a criminal case.
Yeah. The Times says this rarely happens with software or intellectual property. Almost always has to do with a big hardware theft. Silicon Valley, the FBI.
I guess because the value of it is so huge. Maybe they think it's necessary.
Yeah. So his next court date, September 4th, could face up to 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine for every count. You could do the math, 33 times $250,000. It's still less than they settled for. But of course, it was Uber that settled.
Because a bunch of what he took with him was schematics for proprietary circuit boards, I think, and designs.
Yeah. Wow. Uber agreed to provide 0.34% of its stock to Alphabet in the settlement. But as you say, the federal judge referred the case to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and they have decided to prosecute. What a story that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so sketchy, so dodgy. And it just brings, I mean, it's kind of brings back to the point of like that whole culture of Travis, I can never say his name.
Kalanick. Yeah, because apparently, I mean, there's some evidence it was Kalanick's idea that he went to Levandowski and said, come on over and bring some stuff with you.
If you're that kind of person, I mean, like if someone comes up to me and is like, hey,
you say
let's
no.
Take I would be like, no. You get my brain. That's it.
Yeah.
But he originally, like Otto was his attempt to take that stuff and create his own thing, right?
Yeah, so maybe he was doing it for himself initially, yeah.
Right.
Still dodgy.
And he may have thought it was his, the fruits of his labor.
I'm sure he felt very entitled to it.
Yeah.
Even though he was probably being paid a butt ton of money.
But that's a classic case. A lot of...
what? A butt ton? Is that a new measurement?
That's one of my favorite measurements.
It's the British.
It's 53 Cardi B's, I believe.
Nicer than shit or crap ton.
Let's take a break.
From all this.
On that note. And many, many tons. And talk about our wonderful sponsor. And, it's funny because I told everybody before the show we got a new sponsor. It's Zapier. And everybody said, yay, we love Zapier, don't we? Zapier is a automation tool for business or individuals. I use it so they call the little scripts zaps, and they allow you to connect your apps. And by the way, no one has more integrations than Zapier. 1,500 plus apps. They work with every app you use. So, for instance, my current Zap. In fact, I'll log into my Zapier so I could show you how easy it is to make and modify a Zap. One of the things that's cool about Zapier is you could do multi branches. So there's no limit on how many steps a Zap can take. So I'll show you my existing Zap, which is a pretty big one here. This is Pinboard Bookmarks Publish Everywhere. And this is what I use when I'm preparing this show and all the shows that we do. If I star an article on my newsreader, and I have also another Zap that does it, if I add it to Pinboard, it tweets about it, and then it creates a row in a spreadsheet. And look how elaborate these steps can be. These are the actions, and they have lots of actions. They have built-in apps. They have popular apps. You can have it do things like in a Google Sheet, it creates a spreadsheet row, and then you attach it to the account, and then you have a template. And so it has the information from the various steps, and you say, I want this, this, and this. And what I've been able to do is duplicate the spreadsheet Karsten uses to build the show with another spreadsheet. We call it Links from Leo. You test the step. This is so incredibly useful. You know, they always say, if you're spending time doing anything more than once, you should spend a little time automating it. Zapier makes that possible. If you're in sales, you can engage your leads instantly. You can automatically import new customers. You can notify your team about opportunities. Because they support multi-step zaps like my Zap, the possibilities are endless. And you don't have to be a programmer. You don't have to be a geek. It's very straightforward. You could build the solution you need in minutes, test it. They have great testing facilities built in, so you know exactly what works and what doesn't work. No more wasting your time on tasks you know could be automated, but it's just too much work to do it. Or, I don't know, I don't want to spend... No, you could totally do it. Zapier, Z-A-P-I-E-R. Go to Zapier.com/twig. Connect the apps you use most. Let Zapier take it from there. You don't have to be a coder. You don't have to ask a developer for help. We love Zapier. Anybody who's using processing information, using for IoT, all kinds of things. More than 4.5 million people on Zapier right now, saving an average of more than 40 hours a month. That's like a work week every month. And you can see I have a lot of Zaps over times that I've done in the past. And some are turned on and some are turned off right now. But I just love it. I had bots set up, little chat bots. It's really great. Zapier, Zapier, 14-day free trial when you go to Zapier.com/twig. And there is a free tier. I pay for they call it the starter, but it's more than enough for me. I think you get 20 Zaps, but maybe for your business you'd want to have more. It's really fantastic. Zapier. Can't recommend it more highly. Then there's a professional, and then there's professional plus. So depending on how you use Zapier, or maybe use it in the office, there's team and company Zapier accounts as well. Really, really powerful. Love it. Zapier.com/twig. Okay. I think that was our cooling off period.
Yeah. Yeah, I just set up a thing that anytime anyone emails our new show, Ask the Tech Guy, anytime anyone sends us a question, it automatically populates a spreadsheet for us.
It's a great way to handle email. Email's so out of control. Anything you can do to handle email is great, and it's fantastic for that. Google, this is interesting. Paul Thurrott had this, reportedly planning to move its smartphone production out of China into Vietnam.
Good thing you bought that 3A now.
The last Chinese version.
They're going to have problems with the ramp up.
Maybe, yeah. And then some of it will go to Thailand. Now, the good news is Samsung uses South Korean, but also Thailand to manufacture its phones. So there is some manufacturing base. I don't know about Vietnam.
how much of this is economic and how much of it is political?
It's completely totally political. But it's in response to tariffs, so it's both.
I was like, both. Which could become economic.
It's both.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's just tariffs. New tariffs begin September 1st, and then there's another set going in December. I mean, it changes all the time. That's the last time I checked. There's also this greater threat from a presidential tweet a few days ago that he's going to ban companies in the U.S. from doing business in China at all. Which he can apparently enforce.
Legally? Under what law?
Under the law that he's the president.
Yeah. I'm just going to keep going.
He 5 days ago he tweeted, I hereby what did he say?
Hereby order.
I hereby order all of the this was during the G7. Now, he doesn't have the authority to duly order companies to leave China, according to a Georgetown University law professor, but he could prevent future transfers of funds to China. In other words, he could cut off the financial transactions, which would effectively cut off manufacture. But according to this professor, he would first have to make a lawful declaration that a national emergency exists. Congress could terminate that. It would be disastrous. It would be kind of nutty.
Parliament is prorogued. What has happened to democracies around the world?
Yeah, that's a wild one. I can't pretend to really understand what a no-deal Brexit means. But apparently that's...
I thought it was kind of the equivalent of this. La, 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 la.
So it sounds like...
She's got her hands over his, I can't hear you.
Boris is basically going to try and shove it through while Parliament is
dismantling
pro-rogue.
Yeah, by putting off...
So then they don't have to cut a deal or vote on a deal.
So they could have a no-deal Brexit because the deadline's coming. If they don't have a deal, then it doesn't matter. It's going to happen. Yeah. No wonder we're heading into economic chaos.
What else can we talk about Google?
That's a Google story.
No, we're getting.
They're moving their phones out. Smartphone production in Vietnam. That's a Google story.
We talk about the underlying issues. These are underlying issues that they're so intractable.
They're intractable,
frustrating,
But I'm not
demoralizing.
So how about this? Google has decided, because of these intractable, demoralizing issues, they're not going to let anybody talk about embarrassing stuff that gets leaked from their internal message boards. They say
Google becomes a grown-up company.
Is that normal in a company? Yeah, we certainly wouldn't allow, that kind of thing, right?
Well, depending on your employee base, you wouldn't do it anyway because, you're kind of poisoning the well there,
Many large companies have a code of conduct. The Google guidelines, which are on top of the code of conduct, say our primary responsibility is to do the work we've each been hired to do, not spend time working on debates about non-work topics. That's fair enough.
It is.
I would tell my employees that too. But you can't stop people from gathering in the lunchroom and having conversations. They're human beings, but you can
talking about it offline.
So you can't be prevented from discussing certain topics in the workplace, but you could keep it off of company-run discussion boards, Slack.
Right, and let's look what's happened here. It's been manipulated. Like everything in life, it has been manipulated. So you have some players. What's his name? Who was the guy who wrote the horrible memo?
James Damore.
Right? He knew what was going to happen with that. The goal was to get pulled down and then complain about this horrible, liberal behemoth. And so at that point, what choice do you have when you're manipulated that way but to say, let's cut off that path?
Yeah. But there's also, I think there's allegations that Google retaliated against the leaders of the Me Too.
That's a different matter. Well, not just the YouTube thing, but also the walkouts.
Yeah.
And that's a very different matter because that goes to labor law around organization and other things. That's different. That's about that then, Mathew, is still about the workplace, as opposed to Damore is talking about, wars against men.
Right. I'm just saying that in that case, the allegation is that Google is trying to to penalize people for speech that it doesn't like.
Right. And there's an issue there. I agree there. That's not the same.
This is a perfect example of HR stepping in and saying, "Oh, we're just going to ban the whole darn thing."
Well, and there's, I mean,
and as they should.
To be honest, I mean, Matthew, when we were on Slacks, both in Fortune and in GigaOM, I don't think either of us were like, hey, let's plot something, so we can make our companies look bad.
Neither company was as huge as Google.
Yeah, no, but I could see if we had, let's say there was a protest, we might have dropped something into a Slack room saying, hey, there's a protest. Yeah. Come on out.
That's true. We did talk about in this timing is a decent. I mean, no, it's not Google sized, but it was a fair sized company.
Right.
Remember that protest I was trying to get going when they took away the peanut butter machine? Remember that?
Damn, I love that peanut butter machine.
I left after the peanut or before the peanut
butter
incident.
Peanut butter machine was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a huge fiasco.
You know what we're going to put in is a peanut butter machine and a peanut butter hazelnut machine.
It made peanut butter like right in front of you.
Yeah.
I heard about the peanut butter machine. My goodness, you guys.
I didn't hear about this.
Then at one point there was like police tape across it. You couldn't use it because people were allergic.
The peanut butter privilege.
Oh, they were allergic. So people who were allergic were complaining.
They should have made it almond
our
butter.
editors would die if we had that.
We do have editors
who
would die if we had
took
a
the whole thing. Yeah.
So that's why we have the roadie.
And I could totally see that, but I loved it.
Ain't nobody don't like roadie.
Yeah.
Okay.
YouTube Kids introduces content filter for preschoolers, which will launch this week.
That is so sad.
Isn't it sad? If you're age 4 and under, this is designed to allow kids to watch videos that promote creativity, playfulness, learning, and exploration. 5 to 7, explore interests, search for a wide variety of topics, including songs, cartoons, crafts, and more. If you're 8, I'm really trying to do this straight. 8 to 12, allow kids with growing independence to search and explore additional music videos, gaming, family, vlogs, science, and more. When you pick a filter, you'll see a preview of the type of content that's associated with it. Parents, of course, will be the ones implementing the filters, not the kids. So when you sign up the kid for YouTube, you'll see what they're allowed to see. Is this a good solution? Will it work?
I don't think it'll work, but it's a
I don't think it'll work.
Why won't it work? Will people design stuff to get through?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, kids will design things to get through.
Well, I mean, a 4-year-old really does. A 4-year-old is, not looking for. But there are people who will design stuff to get through. And there are things. And the other thing to think about is everybody's standards of what they want their kids to watch is going to be a little bit different. So,
well, it's parental controls, so that you get to choose, right?
Well, you get to choose somewhat, but some people are probably going to find some things a little more offensive than other things. And
so I didn't mention, but there is a fourth choice, which is approve content yourself. That's effectively a parental whitelist.
So, that I'm pro, but it does take a lot of work.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's work. Yeah, you'd have to go through each video yourself.
Most people don't do it.
I used to. I don't anymore. Now I do spot checks, and my daughter knows I do spot checks, but I spot check what she's been looking on YouTube. But beforehand, I actually did
access to her history, Stacey?
Yes.
How do you do the spot check? Okay.
I have access to her history.
And she's not wiping history?
That's true. She might be wiping her history. She has she has a very good, dedicated, and I trust her.
She's got a script.
She's got a script.
She wrote a JavaScript. Yeah.
I would be very proud. If she did that, I'd be like,
showed her how okay. Showed her how to do it. Yeah. She asked me it.
Yeah.
I gave her
if my restrictions
Grandpa Matthew, do you speak JavaScript?
She could
I remember when they invented Java.
I'm kind of doing that with my kids on their TV watching stuff.
You do a pre-approve? Or you post-scan?
I'm loading stuff into the TV that we own that I know is good for them to watch, just to make it easier for them.
There you go. Just kind of
even if it's on
make a path.
Even if it's stuff that's on Netflix anyways.
Right.
Here's a database of all the stuff that I know is good TV and fun stuff to watch.
What I don't get is why YouTube
all
has
in one spot.
not had this parental control before. This seems like the obvious thing to do.
It was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Because they didn't care, I don't think.
Well, I don't think they cared, and I think they put a lot of blame on a lot of the onus on the user. Hey, if this is an under 13-year-old, they shouldn't even be here anyway. Screw you. And basically the market said, okay, real talk, Google.
Yeah.
Our kids are watching this. People are putting content. You're making money. Own up and do this.
Do you remember, Stacey, when I wrote about surveilling my kids? Do you remember that?
Oh, yes. Yes, because you had a keystroke logger on your kids.
What?
I did, yeah.
Mathew, that's terrible.
I know.
I mean, I was shocked. We had this debate.
That's what I wrote about.
Although, Matthew, my daughter turned 13 last week. And now I'm like, ooh, should I put a keystroke logger?
And now you're thinking, no, Matthew wasn't so...
No, I'm still thinking you're wrong.
I'm fortunate because even though we had the internet when my kids were young, it was early days and there really wasn't much trouble they could get into. I don't know what I would do as a parent.
It was mostly, what I was interested in was mostly... At the time, it was AOL Instant Messenger and MSN and ICQ and stuff like that. And I wanted to be able to see who they were talking to and what, if they were saying, I'll meet you at the mall parking lot. We can take off
after
to Colorado or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't feel good about it, but I did do
How
it.
does your daughter feel about it?
So she's an adult now.
Yeah.
So the last part of it was our middle daughter. I did it with, I think, the two oldest ones mostly, but our middle daughter wrote something about it and about how she felt about it, which I thought was great.
That's good.
Yeah, and she said at first it bothered her, and then she felt, because I told her I was doing it, and she said it made her feel more comfortable because she knew that I was watching and looking out for her or whatever. Maybe she just said that to be nice. I don't know.
Yeah, she was writing the story on the...
on Gigom, yeah. She didn't want me to get fired.
So I don't do as much Facebook coverage as I used to because I just feel like, who cares?
I'm not on it, so it doesn't bother me.
I'm not on it either, right. And I think so we're going to have to let Jeff take the lead on this. Here's the story from the Washington Post. Facebook tightens rules on political advertisers requiring further identity proof, such as federal election communications registration. This seems like a good thing, Jeff, is it?
Yeah, I think it is. Where they got in hot water here was that any ad that has political subject matter was subject to this. Mm-hmm. Thus, when newspapers advertised their political coverage, they were subject to it, and they got quite pissy about it. Oh. But I think the mistake there was not making the requirement broader than just political ads. I think that having transparency around who places ads and who wants to manipulate your brain is a fine standard, and there should be transparency around it. And I think the more there is, the better. I think, as Facebook's want is, by limiting it, I think they kind of got in hot water they didn't need to get into.
So, and the downside for media companies was in order to, I actually interviewed a bunch of small publishers about this, and like big media companies, it wasn't a problem, but you had to register in order to be allowed to basically promote your news story about a political topic. And political topics were incredibly broad. So you could, if it was a story that was interpreted to be about a mayor or, someone in the legislature, someone in Congress, then it by definition was political, even if the issue itself wasn't political. And but to register was an incredibly time-consuming. Right. So the problem was, it was a very time-consuming process to get authorized, and you had to provide that out of it. Personal information and your address.
Do you have any objection to it on principle, Matthew?
No, I mean, if it's my biggest problem with it was that it was so broad that lots of things were lumped in there. So this one woman I was talking to said they did a story about water quality, and somehow it was denied. They couldn't promote the story on their page because Facebook said, well, that's a political topic. And let's not forget, most of these publishers have to promote their stories because the algorithm doesn't surface them for people, because Facebook has tuned it to the point where lots of their stuff doesn't even show up. And then they're told they can't promote it because
don't we already have a model for this in the broadcast rules, though? I mean, really, the problem here is that these rules exist and are strictly enforced for broadcast advertising, but they were never made for digital advertising. Couldn't we apply the broadcast model?
I'm going to get nervous about ever trying to make the internet into broadcasters, what's happening in Europe. So I want to avoid that kind of language. But I think that voluntarily for Facebook to do this, I mean, another way to have done this is to say, I'm here in Austin because organizations like Trust Project and Reporters Without Borders Journalism Trust Initiative are here, and we're having a meeting around research around trust. Well, one thing that the industry is pushing on itself is to be transparent about ownership and contact and who's in charge and all of that.
The FCC doesn't regulate online, so I guess online has to do it, although Congress could pass it. Let me read you the FCC regulation. This strikes me as eminently reasonable and fair. When a broadcast station transmits any matter for which money, service, or other valuable consideration is either directly or indirectly paid or promised to or charged or accepted by such a station, the station at the time of the broadcast shall announce that such matter is sponsored, paid for, furnished, either whole and part, and by whom or on whose behalf such consideration was supplied.
Is this just political, Leo?
This is for everything. All advertising.
They don't do that. They don't do that. They don't announce it on the air that this toothpaste is brought to you by...
In the case, well, I think that as long as the sponsor's name, but you're right, in political advertising, that's why you see I approve this message, right?
Yes, right.
In the case of any television political advertisement concerning candidates for public office, the sponsor should be identified with letters equal to or greater than 4% of the vertical picture. I mean, there are rules.
Jesus.
There are rules.
Well,
and
be careful, my friend, about trying to bring broadcast rules to the internet.
No. You'd have to, obviously you can't, some of this stuff you can't say, but that's interesting. In the case of a commercial product or service, an announcement stating the sponsor's corporate or trade name or the name of the sponsor's product, when it's clear that the mention of the name of the product constitutes a sponsorship identification, shall be deemed sufficient. So when we do an ad for Zapier, we don't have to say this is paid for by Zapier. The name, saying the name Zapier, and it's clearly in a commercial context, is sufficient. There's just the higher standard for political advertising.
But I was trying to say something else too. I think that the journalistic organizations should set the standard of transparency, and they should have sat down with Facebook and said, "Okay, we'll show the way. We will be transparent about our ads." But to Matthew's point, make it easy on us. Don't put us through hassle to do that. But I think that there's nothing wrong with requiring transparency in our own business.
If I'm doing it, if I buy an ad to promote an article or a piece in a journalistic entity, that's not a political ad. Why is that being confused with a political ad?
Because you might have Breitbart or InfoWars or Jeff's political newsletter.
This is where we get in trouble, isn't it?
I make a faux view of what a news organization is to get around the rules.
Well, there's a huge battle going on right now because Beto O'Rourke's campaign kicked Breitbart out of an appearance, saying they're not a news organization. Breitbart says, well, of course we are. And I'm seeing both sides argue it out on Twitter. I don't. I think it's a bad look to kick any organization out. I
think regardless of what you think of Breitbart, that was a dumb move.
It seems like a dumb move.
So much ammunition.
But I agree that that's a problem for Facebook. So if
so Facebook just said, if you're talking about issues, you're registering. Because Facebook,
and I can see why the New York Times would bridle at that.
So Facebook
think the New York Times should not have anything against transparency.
And Facebook has started talking about having, if you are an accredited news organization, you're in a specific category, those organizations might not have to put their promoted stories into the ad. I think they're discussing that, or at least they've talked about it.
Yeah, and full disclosure moment is that I raised money for Facebook for the school to try to aggregate the signals of quality in news so we can help the platforms, all of them, and advertisers start to determine what are news organizations. That's part of the issue. It's not clear.
Yeah, well, and I will say, so I'm going to throw this out here as a very small, what I feel, I'm still a news organization. I follow traditional journalistic ethics and all of that good stuff, right? I will say that there is a concerted effort to muddy the waters, and it is very hard to to not get co-opted into becoming, I guess, an influencer is what I tend to get called. And every day I get requests from people who want to buy access, basically, to my brand. I don't really know. And as a publisher who I post my stuff on Facebook, and sometimes I have paid to promote it to people who might be interested. This would be really onerous because I am a journalist, but I don't look necessarily like a journalist. And if you're not in the small group of people who know me, you may not think that. So there are lots of pressures, though, for people who are like me to not be journalists anymore. And so I can see both sides. And as someone who's constantly pulled between both sides, I'm not pulled. I know exactly where I stand, but I could easily be pulled the other way if I wanted to make a lot more money.
And I think the hard part is that there is you don't have to be called to the bar to be a journalist. You don't have to, you don't have to have a license. You don't have to.
And you shouldn't have them because that would be.
You shouldn't have to.
Amen.
Yeah. But that means Breitbart can say we're all journalists, and then when they get kicked out of a campaign meeting, they can turn it into a huge deal.
But it's also why Facebook had to say, we don't care who you are. If you're advertising around issues, you're going to register. We got into such hot water, said Facebook, because people said Russians were coming after, everybody else was coming after. We don't know who is trying to influence people about issues. So if you're going to advertise on an issue, you're identifying, you're verifying.
And the risk of their plan that I was describing is that they effectively become the entity that says this is a quote unquote journalistic organization and this is not. And I'm not sure we want Facebook to do that.
They don't want to be in that position either.
And we already have that, though, with things like Google News. I mean, you have to apply to get your site on Google News, and it can be challenging to get accredited.
And that's not good. And I don't think that's good. I remember a big debate about whether blogs should be in there.
Well, but Matthew, on the other hand, they're going to do the new news surface at Facebook, the new news tab, right? And they're going to have a limited number of, what they've said is they're going to have a limited number of sites. Pick a number out of the hat, 200, 300, some number. So they're going to select, as does Apple News, I believe, right? Who is in there and who is news. Because there's such noise, and people have been yelling at them. And what one person at Facebook said to me was, I can't control your uncle on newsfeed, but I need a space I can control where we can put news that's a good environment. What do you think of that?
So I thought at first my impression was they were going to do that experiment they tried before, where they took news out of the newsfeed completely and put it in a separate tab, which was a disaster.
They said explicitly not, yes.
Right. So they said that they're not taking it out of the newsfeed. It will still exist there, but they're creating a separate place where you can get sort of top headlines and, Google News, Apple News type of thing, which makes complete sense to me. I'm not convinced anyone is going to go there, but nobody asked me. So
I just did.
That is true.
Until you asked.
Jeb Rubenfeld writing in the National Review, the right way to regulate big tech. Wait a minute, I don't think this is bad.
I don't even know what it says. I'm so tired of the topic.
Well, this is an interesting one. By the way, I love the lead. He says, imagine you're living a millennium ago in 1980. You get off a call with an old friend. A moment later, the phone rings again. It's an operator from AT&T. Good news, says the operator. Based on what you and your old friend were just saying, our partner retailers have some great products we know you'd be interested in. Oh, and by the way, some of your comments about immigration violated our hate speech policy, so we're going to have to suspend you temporarily. It's kind of what's going on, isn't it? He proposes, and by the way, Nilay Patel on Twitter completely dismisses this, but I don't think it's a bad idea. Since you can guesstimate that Facebook makes, on average, the ARPU, the ARPU, average revenue per user, of about $112 per user. If every American Facebook user paid $112 a year, Facebook would have the same U.S. revenues without any advertising or data mining. What if Facebook had on the front page a clear switch? You could continue to use Facebook for free, but here's what we're going to gather about you.
So poor people get surveilled, but rich people can afford not to. That's right there.
That is the one flaw with that.
That's the one flaw, but it's not a. But
it's a fundamental.
If you wanted private Facebook, you pay a few bucks a month. It's not.
And then you're going to do it for
You
Reddit,
can't-
and then you're going to do it for YouTube, and then you're going to do it for Twitter. It's
See, this is why
privilege.
this
Well,
is
no,
why
you
government
pick your service.
exists. No, this
No,
is why
right,
government
but
exists to
people who can't
protect
afford it.
poor people.
Right.
Okay.
So people who can't afford it
Are
get
you
surveilled.
saying that poor people should be able to use a service that costs money for free?
I'm saying they should be able to use.
Why don't we just
the
send them
service.
subscriptions to New York Times for free?
No,
Or give them
no.
a free
No.
Comcast subscription.
If you build
the good of
so right
society.
now,
just because they
we've
can't
had-
afford it.
But they should
we've
not
had
be
companies
surveilled
build
without their
business
knowledge.
models based on
Not
surveillance, and this is where we are today.
It's just
so
advertising.
we're either going to. Well, it's based on a deeper data mining
Surveillance
than
is
we've
kind of
ever
a
had.
loaded word.
Amen,
It is. Okay,
brother.
so
Thank
we
you.
are-
Or they call them cookies. That's why they call them cookies. So it sounds
They're
nice.
delicious.
Nice.
Who doesn't like cookies?
Based on a level of data mining that is unprecedented and ungoverned and is sneaking into aspects of their lives beyond just advertising on a particular site that they're using. So when you have all of those things, which we currently have, what we need to do is we need to regulate it. And maybe people don't get their Facebook feeds, anymore.
I don't
Maybe
think
Facebook
having
goes out of business.
Facebook is a human right. I agree.
Right.
There are some things, human rights, that should, regardless of ability to pay, you should have. Human rights. Facebook
Should
ain't
you have
one
a
of
right?
them.
Should you have a right to not have your data used against you without
Yes,
your knowledge?
and you do.
Yes.
Just do what
Well,
I do and what
define-
Stacey
define
does.
having data
Don't
used
use
against you first.
Facebook. So what's this notion that everybody ought to get Facebook for free and Facebook shouldn't have the opportunity to monetize? I don't
It's their
understand
notion.
that.
That's their business model.
Well,
You're
that's
the one
right.
who's shifting it.
No,
You're the one
that's
who's
right.
shifting
And
it
so-
and saying,
Facebook-
no, that doesn't
Facebook
work for
chose
me.
a
I don't
business
want
model.
that. I want to charge everybody.
So
'cause
I
you're
agree. They
privileged
chose
white man.
but they chose a
comes up
business
with another
model.
business model.
You have the
Yeah,
right
I'm not-
to right now. It's still a binary choice. You can use it or not use it. And I think more and more people are aware of this. Is part of the problem. Is in the past people perhaps weren't aware of the privacy that they were giving up. But presuming that they're fully aware now, they have a choice. What about a third choice where you say, I like this service is useful, but I don't want to be
If they want that as a
surveilled.
business model, but that's up to them. Why
Well, it
are
is
you
up
going
to
to
them.
impose that upon them?
That's true.
No.
Okay.
Shall we read? Shall we have a reading, please, of Ben Thompson's treachery on this? Who has,
It was
I think, an
pretty good.
intelligent analysis about, Mathew pointed it to me, about privacy fundamentalism.
I knew we would get to this because this is a great piece, I think.
It is.
He's a pretty
Thank you,
smart
And it
guy.
Matthew, for
comes
pointing it out,
from
by the way.
something that I know raised Jeff's blood pressure, which is Farhad Manjoo's piece on the New York Times Privacy Project, in which he had people monitoring his surfing of the net for a few days, and seeing all the tracking resources from Amazon, Facebook, and Google, various trackers on the sites he visited. This became an issue for Ben because, as you can see, Stratechery's in there, and there are a bunch of trackers. Ben said, which I found odd since I have zero advertising on my site. So he says, it sure looks like I'm up to some devious behavior. I guess it's all the advertising trackers on my site, which doesn't have any advertising. Or perhaps Manju, as so often seems to be the case with privacy scare pieces, has overstated their case by a massive degree.
Sorry, let me just applaud that line.
I knew when I read Manju's piece, I knew that this would be one of
Jeff
those.
would be losing it.
That and Jeffrey Fowler's piece where he tries to buy a banana with 2 different credit cards. Did you read that one? Fowler's going to be on Tech News Weekly tomorrow, so be nice. But
we should talk about their coverage of Section 230 too sometime.
Oh.
Where they get
I
it
don't know the
completely
banana
wrong.
story. I would like to.
So he wants to know how much.
either.
He wants to know how much
Tell us
tracking.
the banana story.
All right, let's go to the banana story.
We're
Is
not
that
going
a
with Ben
banana in
Thompson,
your
though.
pocket?
Yeah, I'll go back to Ben Thompson. Put a pin in that. We're going to push that onto the
Putting
stack.
a pin in Ben Thompson.
Yeah, put a pin in Ben Thompson, and then go to buying bananas via credit card. Jeffrey Fowler's story, in which he says, "What we want to see is we wanted to see how much information was gathered with a credit card purchase." So I went and I bought a banana, one banana with 2 different credit cards, the Apple card and the Amazon Prime's reward card from Chase Visa. At which point he throws out the entire banana analogy set because he says there's really no way of figuring out how much information they gathered from that purchase. So forget I mentioned bananas. But here's what we know, or we think we know, about credit cards gathering and how that information is shared.
But wait, it's not even about bananas?
Well, no, it was like a good lead for about 5.
The banana was a red herring.
It was a red herring. Look how long the bananas go on.
Like a MacGuffin.
Like
it was a yellow herring.
So, but he does then get into what, and I think this is actually one of those good informational pieces consumers should read to understand, the kind of information. And he actually analyzes the privacy policies from the various credit cards. And it's kind of an ode to the Apple card, in which shares very little information. Goldman Sachs, which runs the Apple card, has been prevented by Apple from gathering information.
Oh, yeah. We trust Goldman Sachs.
Well, Apple we trust, sure we maybe. But Goldman does have to share information with the credit agencies. But it does not. It says it does not. And Apple says we enforce this, share transactions to marketers, or a sister company of Goldman that mines credit card data.
Oh, nice.
It's very cozy. Anyway, he says, that's why you want to use the Apple card. But
and don't put it in your jeans or your leather wallet.
Yeah, I have it in my leather wallet right now. I don't care. I'm a rule breaker. I take my chances, baby.
As long as you have the leather wallet in your denim jeans, the 2 negatives
it reverses
makes a positive.
Yeah, it reverses the polarity.
Yeah. So that's another. Fowler writes a lot of pieces like this that I'm sure give Jeff the heebie-jeebies.
So that was the great thing about Ben's piece, was that he pointed out that lots of those tracking pixels, which sound so, horrible, one of them lets him use a specific font. Like, it has nothing to do with tracking your
it's
behavior
typekit, but
or your.
I have to point out that that information about the visitor does go back to Microsoft on that.
Yeah.
Stripe is getting information about the visitor because he uses Stripe to pay for subscriptions. CloudFront, which is an Amazon, CloudFront's probably pretty benign. It's basically an Amazon DDoS protection. And
it's a CDN, isn't it?
Sort of, yeah. And we use it too. Yeah. And so I think that's probably benign. And of course, Farhad treated it as Amazon. But but who knows? Maybe the information does
There's a jQuery file. Is that? I'm just saying.
It's just
I
software.
think his point is that some things are clearly.
I have to point out, we use a lot of the same stuff. We use CloudFront.
This is about keeping the web going. The cookie was invented not to surveil you. Right. It was invented to keep state.
Well, these aren't all cookies. Some of these are merely scripts or buttons or things. But they're all could be used to track you. And somebody's also said the same thing to me. You have 16 trackers. I use Ghostery. You have 16 trackers on Twit. And I said, yeah, but they're not ad trackers. They're things like this, like New Relic and Google's Analytics and stuff like that. So there is privacy fundamentalism. And the point that I think the point that Ben is saying is you don't want, and this is what you've always said, Jeff, you don't want the perfect to eliminate the good or something like that.
Well, it's the verb could gets dangerous. It could be used for terrible things.
Yeah.
The point of this article, he says,
this is sloppy journalism.
I will say that online, I guarantee you, there is someone who is using it for nefarious reasons.
Could be used.
So I do believe, someone's always going to use a new platform for porn. Someone is always going to use a benign technology to make money via advertising or data mining.
Google, we use Google Analytics because we want to know how many people visit our page. That's useful information for us and which pages they visit. We're going to put briefly for just a couple of days a heat map tracker on our page to see what parts of the page people use and look. That's a usability thing for us, but it's a tracker and it's a third party. So yeah, the thing is, as Ben's pointing out, there are good reasons why I use every one of these trackers, and it's not for advertising.
And I think we should I don't think the term tracker is a great term for what you're describing. There are things that gather data about the user, but tracking implies that somehow follows you or that someone is kind of surveilling you. If it's just, hey, what fonts do you have, so I know whether to serve you one or not, I don't consider that tracking. That's just.
And yet, as Stacey points out, it could be misused as a tracker.
Well, this is where our regulations need to go, and we need to elevate the discussion beyond regulate tech, which is silly, and think about it more like, hey, when cars came out, cars were great. Maybe they weren't so awesome, but they were good. They got you places, and some people were using cars to run over other people or to, destroy property. So we built laws that. We create laws to solve those problems. With tech, we're still in this weird place where we're like, we can't regulate technology, but we can. We can regulate the outcomes we don't want. If we want people's data to be protected, we should create laws that require you to opt in. And once we have those laws, yes, some people are going to have to adjust their business models, but I guarantee you Facebook and Google will be fine.
Have we talked about how the car industry invented the term jaywalking? Have we talked about that before?
But hold on. I want to get to that. Put a pin in that one because I have to unpin Ben. He's been hanging there for a while now. Let me just wrap up his article. He says, the point of this article is not to argue that companies like Google and Facebook are in the right and Apple's in the wrong, or for that matter, to argue my self-interest. The truth, as is so often the case, is somewhere in the middle, in the gray. To that end, I believe the privacy debate needs to be reset around these three assumptions. And this is what I want to run by you guys. These three assumptions. One, accept that privacy online entails trade-offs. The corollary is an absolutist approach to privacy is a surefire way to get policy wrong. And incidentally, knock sites like his off the net, right? Because there's no way to monetize. Two, keep in mind that the widespread creation and spread of data is inherent to computers and the internet. And that these qualities, Jeff's been saying this all along, have a positive as well as negative implication. Be wary of what good ideas and positive outcomes are extinguished in the pursuit to stomp out the negative ones. That's one Jeff's been saying a lot. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think we all agree on that. Focus policy, and this is the one I like, or I think we should talk about. Focus policy on the physical and digital divide. We were just talking about that, the difference between Facebook's political ads and broadcast's political ads. Our behavior online is one thing. We both benefit from the spread of data and should in turn be more wary of those implications. Making what is offline online is quite another. So
I don't fully understand what he's saying there.
He's talking, that relates to his analogy of the Stasi files.
Yeah.
So the Stasi had all this information in file folders, so it was hard to access.
The East German secret police had millions of these, literally miles of file folders on East German citizens. But because it wasn't online, it wasn't as mineable, it wasn't as big of a hazard, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think that's his
and this gets to that concept of ambient privacy, which is once we start putting all this data online, it's searchable, accessible, and mineable in ways that it hasn't been before. Mm-hmm. And so I think, and that's a very good point to keep in mind. And it's kind of, that drives my reporting on all, like any sort of smart stuff that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I think he's got a great point about, like, look at DNA information. So people can upload their DNA info, which is great because they can find family members that they didn't know about. They can find out information about their background. If they were adopted, they can find out if they have health risks that they didn't know about. This is all fantastic. But people can also use that information for all sorts of nefarious purposes.
So you don't regulate the knowledge, you regulate the use.
Right.
That to me is key here. Is that I worry that data has become a scare word, and that we're going to be in a position where we're going to try to control knowledge. Men in Black, we're going to erase things. That's why I object to the right to be forgotten and such. Knowledge in a free society is free. Misuse of it is about where Stacey's going, and it's quite right. Your then government steps in to protect people's rights against real harm and real misuse. But to regulate knowledge or even the underlying technology itself is the wrong way to go. Right? This is why when it comes to facial recognition, there was another effort this week. I forget which politician said, I want to ban it outright. Well, Tell that to families with Alzheimer's patients. Tell that to police who do have a legitimate use of it. Tell that to others. Facial recognition is not inherently bad.
Oh, the Stasi have shut him off. There, go ahead, Jeff. You're back.
Yeah, you
stopped at inherently bad.
Yeah, it just we should regulate the use of it, and I forget now.
And I do
the
think,
tech companies
to be honest,
are partially to blame for this.
Skype works.
They are, yeah.
I got Skyped.
Because they've turned for years, their rallying cry was don't regulate technology, just broadly. Mm-hmm. So that's why we're talking about data so broadly, because we haven't been forced to articulate what we mean when we're talking about technology. And the tech industry has benefited hugely from that because we've steered clear from it, because it was a job creation engine, because it was making money, and we were worried about stifling innovation. And it's time now. We're all putting our skepticism glasses back on, or taking off our rose-colored eyeglasses. There's something about that. And we're saying, oh, hey, we need to regulate the use of data, but we still haven't had that. We haven't developed the vocabulary for having these policy discussions yet, I don't think.
And I think it is totally the fault, or partly the fault, of Facebook and Twitter and Google. Mark Zuckerberg admitted in an interview that for the first 10 years, all he did was think about the positive aspects of connecting people together around the globe. So they had nobody thinking about the negative aspects until everyone got mad at them about an election and Russian trolls. Thousands and thousands of PhDs couldn't spend even 10 minutes thinking about what could happen to your data. What could, if they allowed everybody to use it, could someone use it for something bad?
The best thing about wearing rose-colored glasses is that all the red flags, just look like flags.
Oh, that was nice. It took me a while, but yeah.
Not as long as it took him.
It took me a while. Took me a while to get there.
So why did the auto industry invent jaywalking?
So this is a fascinating story. So it was a marketing campaign to try and get people to stop stepping out in front of cars.
Because they kept getting squished.
Because they kept hitting people,
yeah.
And people were like, cars are bad, they hit people. But if you look at old video of people walking around New York or Paris or London before cars were dominant, they literally just wander wherever they want. And cars are like honking and trying to get them to move out of the way. And so the car industry came up with this campaign to convince people that walking out in front of cars was bad, instead of maybe designing roads or streets or cities in a different way to accommodate people walking. It was cars are more important, and therefore if you step out, and the J came from crazy as a jaybird, I think was the term at the time.
Oh, I love it. You're crazy as a jaybird walking out in front of that car. I think the self-driving vehicle industry should take a page from that book, because we need to find a new way to get people from walking in front of cars. Right after we talked about Anthony Levandowski and his indictment, the New Yorker published a piece from Charles Duhigg, how the Anthony Levandowski indictment helps big tech stifle innovation.
Wow.
In Silicon Valley. Now, his contention is all innovation comes from intellectual property theft. Much of the history of innovation is the history of theft. Microsoft stole the basic idea for the GUI from Apple. Apple stole it from Xerox. The researchers at Xerox probably stole it from somebody else. He says these large tech companies are worried they might be on the wrong side of the purloiner dynamic going forward. So now they're issuing to workers a basic threat. If you leave and join a competitor, we're going to come after you for stealing our secrets. So that's an interesting dissenting point of view on this.
That is a hot take, if I have ever seen one.
Yeah. Tuesday's indictment is drawing mixed reviews in Silicon Valley, Duhigg writes. Some were delighted by the possibility that Levandowski could be sent to prison. He had clearly taken files from Google he wasn't supposed to take, and he is widely disliked by his former colleagues. A former coworker told Duhigg he's one of the most coin-operated people I've ever met. He just goes wherever they pay him the most. I love that. Others have been put off by his extracurricular activities, such as the founding of a church called the Way of the Future. I guess devoted to the realization of acceptance and worship of a godhead based on artificial intelligence.
I forgot he was behind that. Yeah,
well,
that
you
is
clearly
crazy.
have not been reading
Should
most
look
of the
that up.
stories. They're like,
I forgot he was behind that.
that's usually his claws lately.
Lewandowski is in many ways a perfect mirror of the Valley's worst instincts, and so, like many perfect mirrors, folks are happy to see him get broken if it means they no longer have to suffer the glare. There you go, Charles Duhigg.
I mean, Apple did steal that stuff from Xerox. So.
Not really. Apple
Although
didn't.
They kind of borrowed it.
They licensed it. Didn't they pay a license fee?
Did they? Later they did, yeah.
Later. But again, we wouldn't have Windows, we wouldn't have Macintosh, we wouldn't have GUIs if they hadn't.
And Xerox did say that's what that stuff was for.
It was a research institute.
They weren't trying to, make a fortune.
The best part of that story, which I think it was Bill Atkinson told us this on Triangulation, was that Andy Hertzfeld saw stuff at Xerox and misunderstood what they were doing with regard to overlapping windows. And so as a result, wrote that as part of the Macintosh operating system. When the Xerox engineers saw it, they said, wow, we never did that. We couldn't figure out a way to do that. That's impressive.
That's hilarious.
That's how innovation happens, right?
Accidentally. Yeah.
It's a mix of stealing and inventing. I mean, Mickey Mouse wasn't the first mouse to steer a steamship. Let's just face it.
Don't start with the
Lion
Lion King. That whole thing is a ripoff.
The Lion King is Hamlet.
No, well, but I mean, there's another lion.
You can't really rip off Shakespeare. Film. Okay.
And the character's name is Kimba or something.
Kimba.
It's literally exactly the same.
It is Kimba.
It's Kimba. Oh, I didn't know this. So there's another film with a Lion King named Kimba?
There's a young lion and his dad, and there's a lion with an older lion with a scar.
It's
and
still Hamlet.
Yeah, it's still Hamlet. Yeah. Shakespeare ripped off lots of stuff too. Come on, let's be honest.
But he's in the public domain.
We didn't get to a sense of property until the Statute of Anne in 1705. The only thing that existed before copyright was licenses, where the government, the king, the bishop, would give you the license to be the only one who could print, or the only one who could write about this, or the only one who could do that. There was no notion of owning copyright. The notion of intellectual property as property is a relatively recent innovation, or lack thereof.
There are a lot of people think it's a bad idea. The idea, though, was to reward innovation without stifling future innovations. So the whole idea
to get it out in public.
Yeah, the whole idea of patent is publish it. You own it for a limited period of time, so you can profit from your invention, but then others can build upon your invention. That seems sensible.
But unfortunately, the copyright maximalists have extended, the period for so long that making money is literally the only thing that occurs.
There is apps, and Larry Lessig has talked about this quite a bit. There's a lot of value in the common from stealing ideas, from taking Grimm's fairy tales and making Cinderella.
And that's why the term intellectual property is fundamentally...
It's a bad idea.
It's a bad term.
It ain't your property.
It should not be used. Yeah, it's not property.
And of course, we live ironically in a world where your actual property, like your phone, isn't your really property, but you
and your books aren't your property either.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
It's very confusing.
And your tractor.
Do not bring your property into or out of the United States. U.S. border officials are really getting aggressive. Zach Whitaker writing in TechCrunch.
They're coming after my people.
They're coming after your people.
This is a frightening case.
This is bad.
Last year, the CPB searched 30,000 travelers' devices. That's a 400% increase since 2015. And the real issue is that they are stopping people for the flimsiest of reasons. He talks about...
Kid, it was his friend's stuff.
Yeah, Ismail Ajawi, who's 17 years old, was coming into the United States in Boston to attend Harvard as a freshman. He's a Palestinian national living in Lebanon. He was denied entry because he had WhatsApp posts from friends his friend's social media activity, and it wasn't terrorist activity, just they don't like the U.S., which, by the way, I think we're allowed to say that, right?
Apparently not.
Be careful, Mathew. Foreigner, you be careful.
Well, if they look at my Twitter stream, I'm not getting into the U.S.
Here's a bit of a U.S. immigration form describing why a traveler was denied entry to the U.S. They're asking him about some stuff on his WhatsApp. And the guy says, it was broadcast on WhatsApp. I received news. I don't have anything to do with these. They came to my app.
So that's an interesting point. So WhatsApp, someone can create a group and add you to it and then send you a bunch of stuff.
You don't have any choice.
You have no control over that.
They said, when did you receive the photos on WhatsApp? I don't know. Do you understand the concerns of the United States and its citizens when considering the graphic nature of the images on your cell phone? Of course I understand. No one finds the graphic pictures pleasant. It's inhuman. Have you ever had military or weapons training anywhere in the world? No. Finally, considering the totality of this interview and the content on your cell phone, you have been found inadmissible to the United States. You will be removed on the next available flight. Boom. That's it.
And he was going to Harvard or something, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yes.
He's a Harvard freshman.
This is bad.
And this is happening more and more, particularly to students from Arab and Muslim countries.
It's bad for us universities,
too. What did Harvard say? Yeah, I was going to say, what did Harvard say in response to this?
Harvard has not said anything yet.
Okay. I imagine it will. I mean, this is not a good...
I sure hope
this is not good for them.
What the claim is this is a backdoor Muslim ban. Remember, the Muslim ban that the president tried to institute was told that's not legal. You can't block people because of their religion. However, they found another way.
There were some nuns from Canada, I think, that were denied nuns, and because they had videos where people were speaking in Arabic. Like they were just talking, I think it was recipes or something. But the Border Patrol was, we've got Arabic videos.
Yeah, really, if you're coming into the United States, and it doesn't matter if you're a U.S. citizen or not. If you're coming into the United States, you really probably should wipe your devices because I can't control what's on my Twitter feed. I don't know what's going to be on there when I try to cross the border. Might be somebody saying, I don't like what's going on in America. Shocking.
That's why I think there's got to be, someone should set up a service where you get a burner Chromebook, you get a burner phone,
Google could do that. They did that for a while when they were promoting Chromebooks. You used to be able to get one at the airport and...
You rent one,
Rent one, drop it off.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was more of a public service announcement. Are you ready to do the changelog, Karsten? Do you have the trumpeters? Bring them in.
But the drummers.
Okay, the drummers, they never stop smoking. You know drummers. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the newest stuff from Google. Google Maps is now going to let you combine transit directions with biking directions. What? Shocking! And ride-sharing, multimodal Google Maps. You'll input your destination, tap the transit tab, and then you'll get some choices, and you can make... This is City Mapper's been doing this for years. I've used it.
I have an app called Transit that I use for that.
Yeah. So you can have Uber, you can have Lyft.
Yeah.
You can actually, and convenient, there's a little book a Lyft. If you want. There's just a little button. It says book an Uber, book a Lyft. This is in addition to the new transit crowdedness predictions that they put in there.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Uber.
So they can, in New York, they can say, never take, the M after.
The L.
Yeah, never take the L after 4 p.m. Or
Google, I don't know if you ever use this Google Hire. Are you familiar with this? They're shutting it down.
I never even realized they had this.
I know.
Didn't even know it existed. In other news, there was something called Google Hire.
It was a job application tracking system about 2 years old. This was to simplify the hiring process.
I remember us talking about
Merchant G Suite.
Starting this about 2
Built
years
for small to medium businesses, $200 to $400 a month. This came from an acquisition Google made of Bebop, which I guess did something similar. So
what was... Okay.
Bebop.
There's
this is like a time machine. So they shut that down, but they still have 5 different messaging apps.
One of them's going to work, Mathew.
Actually, there is news in that RCS story. I think Google's going to start providing an RCS server. So if your phone company doesn't, which many refuse to do, doesn't matter. You can use RCS through Google, which makes Google's messaging more like WhatsApp, more a standalone, not dependent on the carrier service. And that's Google seems to want to balance, have a balancing act, not offend the carriers too much.
Wait, does that mean? Hold on. Does that mean I will stop seeing the so-and-so liked this text in my group texts as people on iPhones?
No.
No, you're still going to see that.
Yeah.
Okay. Really, that's all I care about. So moving on.
Well, it will if at some point people stop using Apple's messages and start using Google RCS.
That's going to happen.
That's going to happen. Rich communication services.
I was depressed when I found out my kids care more about whether the bubble is green than about what system they're using.
Is that for real? I had a friend tell me that once, and I swear to God, I thought they were joking.
Oh, yeah. Henry, my son, everybody in the frat had an iPhone except for one poor kid who had an Android phone, and they couldn't include him in group messages, so he just wouldn't get invited to parties.
Wait, so he doesn't get included because it doesn't work, or just they don't like the bubble?
No, they're
only sending it to iMessage recipients.
They can only do the group message from iMessage, so because he's a green bubble, he's left out. But that really adds to the overall feeling that you don't want to be
that's happened to people in my family.
Sure.
Not kids.
Oh, no, then I'm giving my daughter a Pixel.
No, you're gonna. She's
bad.
She's going into therapy in 20 years and going to blame you for that.
Child abuse. Child abuse.
Mom gave me a Pixel.
This is a big deal for kids at her age.
Absolutely.
She's not going to get invited to anything.
But you need to ask her because who knows what's going on in Seattle schools? There may be more Android
could
phones.
Be all Android.
She's the new kid.
Well, but
she's one of 4 new kids in a class of 15. She's fine.
Ask her.
Okay.
Say, do quick. Just do a quick survey. What kinds of phones people have, and if more than 75% have iPhones, you're getting an iPhone instead of a Pixel.
When our daughter was 14, she wanted a BlackBerry. She didn't even know what they were because of BBM. That's all she wanted.
BBM. Yeah. And you know what? That's completely legitimate.
That was patriotic, Matthew.
She didn't even know
Unless
it was
in India.
Company. She's just like, I want whatever BBM is. What's that thing with the BBM on it?
Speaking of transit, Google has I didn't know this. Waze for. Have you used this, Jeff, for New York City public transit?
No, it's a crowdsourcing thing.
Pigeon.
They're now expanding beyond the subways.
Pigeon. And it's going to all New York transit services. So you haven't used Pigeon?
No, I have not. I didn't know about it.
Well, it works from the Path, so that's what your train is, right?
That's what I take. Path is the civilized subway.
As of Wednesday, it encompasses city buses and ferries, Metro North, the Long Island Railroad, New Jersey Transit, and the Path train.
In fact, I should install it right now.
Pigeon. Put Pigeon on now. They're going to expand Pigeon to San Francisco and Chicago later this year. It's like Waze in the sense that it's crowdsourced information. So if you're stuck on a train, you could say, hey, there's a delay, or it's too crowded, or somebody just barfed in the third carriage, or there's a busker with BO in carriage 2, that kind of thing.
It comes from actual pigeons, I think.
Yeah, there's a pigeon in carriage 4.
Got transmitters.
There's a dead pigeon in carriage 5.
The one rule when I went to New York was never get on an empty car.
That's right.
There's a reason.
There's a reason.
It's an empty.
The other rule in New York?
Yeah.
Never hug an Elmo.
Oh, God. Don't even touch an Elmo. You don't know what's in that.
Never.
Why would someone hug an Elmo?
Because around Times Square.
Are we talking about small children?
Yeah.
We've done
I hugged a minion once, but I was at Universal Studios, so it was okay.
That's okay there.
Oh, those are clean Elmos. Those Elmos are sanitized for your protection.
They are unlicensed Elmos.
Oh, yeah. I would never hug an unlicensed minion. Oh.
You do not want to do that.
I would never do that.
Let me write that down as a show title. Never hug.
That has been a show title.
It has. I've done it before.
Never hug an Elmo has been a show title. We have done this.
Oh, well, I can't do that.
The show is done.
You have no memory.
We've all been here before.
I blanked it out.
In the Matrix.
AR Core renamed.
We've done every possible Google show we could do. We have hit the limit.
When we get to that point,
523 of these. That's it.
When we get to the point where it's an infinite number of monkeys have typed out every script for every twig, we're stopping. AR Core renamed Google Play Services for AR. That just rolls off the tongue. Add support for Note 10 and more devices.
This is good because it's getting AR into more phones than just Pixels.
Yeah. It now supports 60 frame per second rendering on devices like the Pixel, even the Pixel 2 and the Pixel 3 that can do that. It'll give you a much smoother experience. So that's an actual official changelog. Devices that receive support for the AR service: LG's G8S, Style 2, Stylo 5, Realme X, Samsung A7, Note 10, and Note 10 Plus, and the Xiaomi Mi A3.
Wait a second.
What?
Wait a second. Hold a good hot minute.
Not your phone.
What?
Pigeon only works on iPhones.
What?
You're a green bubble, Jeff. You're a green bubble.
He's a green bubble.
You're a green bubble, Jeff.
I'm pissed.
That's green odd. Bubbles on the subway.
Isn't it odd that Google would have an app that doesn't work on Android?
Yeah.
I think they've done stuff like that before. Haven't they?
I guess more people
are on
iPhones. Yeah.
It's area
Wait, are we
120.
done with the changelog? No.
Yes.
We're still changelog.
Now we're done with the changelog.
No, I just was curious because
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I didn't see it on the list, but I didn't scroll all the way down, and my migraine is coming back, so it's not.
Let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up.
Oh no! But I thought the Justice Department talking to Google and saying, you know what? You cannot complete your undersea internet cable between the U.S. and Hong Kong. Oh. Did you guys see that story?
That's on the rundown. Yeah,
that's scary.
It's relatively new, and I was curious.
See, that's all part of that thing. You can't do business with China.
Yeah, and well, I was curious why it was the Justice Department coming in and doing it.
Well, I think
I guess they wanted a national security review.
Okay. Okay.
So Google applied with the FCC in 2017 for this, and the Justice Department and the Defense Department said, "Yo, FCC, hold off while we look at this." Okay. Oh, that sucks though.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Oh, you found the story. Good.
Yeah.
So I thought that was worth mentioning because having an undersea cable like that is really competitive, and if we can't connect directly to China, or our big companies can't connect directly to China, that is breaking the internet in a really fundamental way.
Yeah.
So I was looking at it, I was like, oh, well, that is a tough thing. Okay, that is all.
Welcome to
I love cables.
Welcome to SplinterNet.
So.
Let me own the domain Schmitternet.
Schminternet.
As in Internet Schmitternet.
Internet Schminternet. Let's take a break.
That domain.
You own Schminternet?
I own Schmitternet.com.
SH or SCH?
I think I did SCH, as in Internet Schmitternet.
Schminternet.
The actual German.
Schminter.
Yiddish? What is that?
It sounds like Yiddish.
It's probably Yiddish.
Yeah. Schminternet.
All good things are.
Yeah. Let's take a break, and then your picks of the week, and then Stacey can go to bed. Our show today brought to you by Monday. Not the day, Monday.com. A great way to help your team manage work, meet deadlines, and build a culture of transparency so everybody knows what's going on at work. That way you can work better together. And it's very flexible. It's very pretty. It's very easy to use, but it's a powerful tool that'll help you manage all your core business activities in one place. Everything from like high-level roadmaps, Kanban-style boards, specific day-to-day tasks. You can build a board from scratch, but they also offer a huge selection of templates. Take a template that sounds close and you can customize it. It's all completely customizable. You can automate workflows with reminders and notifications. It supports Dropbox and Google Drive, so files, no problem. You can upload them directly from your computer. Monday.com. It's suitable for any size team, from 2 freelancers working across the globe or thousands of people in an office or any of the above. Teams love Monday.com. And, I think the secret to having a system that works is that its users like it. They want to use it. They live in it. They keep it open all the time. And it's a whole lot better than those Excel files or whiteboards or long meetings you're doing right now. No meetings, please. Monday.com keeps you on track, creating accountability by assigning owners so you know who's doing what. And you'll never miss a deadline with the My Week feature, which is a personal assistant for you and your team that helps you check what's coming up and make sure it all gets done. Stay in control anywhere you go with a mobile app as well, the Monday.com mobile app. So on your desktop, on your phone, on your tablet too, it's Monday.com. Yes, it works great on a Chromebook. Monday.com. I really like it. It's just friendly as heck and yet powerful too. It's a perfect combination. And you don't have to take my word for it. We've got a 2-week free trial waiting for you at Monday.com/twig. Monday.com/twig. Stacey, I'll let you go early if you give me your pick or your thing of the week.
Okay, so my thing this week is a drink recipe. I figure once every 3 times a year, I can give you a drink recipe. Because I miss Texas so much, I've been playing around with Mexican martini recipes.
Oh, yum.
And I assume y'all know. Do y'all know what a Mexican martini is?
Nope.
Really? Okay. Oh.
Somebody does.
Uh-oh.
My dog's excited. Jeff, if you like a margarita, a Mexican martini is like an oversized margarita served in a martini shaker, only it's a little different. And
does it have a rim of salt?
It does have a rim of salt. Does
it have ghost peppers in it?
So it does not have ghost peppers. Although if you want to take some habanero bitters and just stick that on top, you go right ahead.
Baby.
So there are 2 recipes on the internet. Actually, there are a couple more, but the only 2 that even come close are Texas Monthly did one in 2013 and the New York Times did one in 2011. Because I am a service journalist, I took both.
You tried both of them.
And I'm going to tell you, the New York Times 2011 version is actually closer to the taste of the Mexican martini I know and love. Which I am shocked. These are people who put peas in guacamole.
That's
and
not
screw up Section 230 reporting. Yes.
Exactly. And I figured Texas Monthly, they would have the best one.
Come on.
There are other recipes on the internet that include Sprite. Do not do that. Just no. But should you feel like elevating your martini, this also makes a lot. Elevate your margarita. You serve it in a martini glass with your martini shaker on the side with the little olives and a touch of brine to your margarita.
Try those jalapeno stuffed olives for extra kick.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
which I love.
This is Jeff. While you're there, go.
Yes.
Where'd you say you were? Oh, AT&T. The best place to go closest to you. You've got 2 options. Trudy's is the place where it originated. Oh no, Cedar Door is where it originated, and Trudy's is where I used to go. They also have a good queso. Cedar Door, I don't know about their queso, but there's a Trudy's on 29th and Guad, and then there's a Cedar Door down by the convention center. That's actually a legit place.
A little bit of heaven is a Mexican martini and a nice big bowl of queso.
Man.
Go eat it for me, Jeff. Wait, but your heart.
You miss it, don't you? You miss it.
Do you really miss it? Oh.
I miss the food.
Yeah.
But you have constant drizzle, so that's all. It's good.
Okay, it's beautiful, and for the first time in my life, I've been able to grow tomatoes, so I'm very excited.
There you go.
But
Jeff,
there are trade-offs.
Give us a number.
So I'm kind of cheating. 2 huge buildings for Google. When I was down last driving by the construction at Google, I'm fascinated by the new construction that they have. It's just amazing. And so there are pictures up online. This doesn't work for our audio fans so much, but there are pictures at the link of the amazing roof is done.
It's a garden roof, yes?
A garden roof? What does that mean?
Oh, it's not a garden roof. It's a tent.
No.
It's a tent roof.
Things grow on it.
It's a huge tent over many buildings that we built underneath it. And it's quite amazing. You see it. It's very impressive on the ground. The weird thing about the picture is it looks like it's dirty already, but I don't know.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Maybe they'll clean it up later.
They'll fix that.
I don't like it.
But you could see there's already a potential problem. It looks rusty.
And meanwhile, Google now has major plans for San Jose with, I think it was 5,000 jobs and 25,000 homes.
And 6.5 million square feet of offices. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, San Jose is a very strange city. It feels like it was built but then deserted.
Yes, it was. Well, it was.
Good way to describe it.
When I lived there, when I lived in San Francisco, nobody ever went south.
Right.
North, you never went south. The peninsula was, you never caught dead there. It was just boring suburbs. And then San Jose was the nearest thing to a city that people abandoned.
Right.
And yeah, it was gone. Nothing. And now it's a nice, decent place, but you're right. It's as if it was freeze-dried.
Yeah.
And has now been thawed.
Yeah. I worked in radio in San Jose for years before coming to San Francisco.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And that's kind of where I first got into technology because we were in Silicon Valley. It was the late 70s, and it was a very exciting time. But it always felt like, where are all the people? It's like a it's like a movie. It
still does to an extent.
Yeah. Mathew, anything you'd like to pick or plug?
I do have something
we
that's
should call this pick
weird.
or plug. Yeah.
It's a little strange because I like the odd. And this one fits with something I've been thinking about, which is how to sort of randomize your life, how to break out of ruts or whatever. So I came across this article about a group on Reddit, of course. They call themselves Randonauts. And so without going into too much detail, they believe that, or they're trying to challenge the idea that we live in a simulation. So they're trying to get out of the loop, as it were. And part of what they do is they randomly generate places to go to. And so there's a fairly complicated process where you log into a Telegram app and you type a command, get attractor or get void, and then their software uses a quantum random number generator and spits out a place for you to go to. And the idea is you're supposed to catch the simulation glitching by fooling it and doing something random. Anyway, all of that.
Here's the diagram if you want to try to figure it out. Escape determinism.
Yeah. It's sort of half a joke and half, I think, a real thing. But if you avoid all the kind of simulation part, what it is just a way to get you to randomly go to different places because it's interesting.
I'm afraid I'd end up in San Jose.
You might. And so they log things that they find that they think are evidence of either the simulation glitching or, so for example, 3 identical black cats, an upside down airplane.
But wouldn't the glitch prove that you're in the Matrix, not that it's not a simulation? It proves it is a simulation.
So part of them are trying to prove it is, and some of them are trying to get out of it. Anyway, it's not important that you believe all that.
I just want the red pill.
I have a headache too.
I thought it was interesting that some of the stuff they describe just randomly going to different places, which is something I've actually started doing, not in any organized way, obviously, but it reminded me of this guy that I came across, and now I'm going to forget his name, but he was trying to do the same thing. So he wrote his own apps, and one was a kind of, I think it was an add-on to Uber, or it was like an Uber, but you couldn't put in a destination. It would randomly generate a destination, and then you would just go there and see what happened. He started randomly showing up at people's events, so he would pick a random event and just show up at it, like someone's birthday party or an anniversary. Or I thought it was hilarious that at one point he actually got a random tattoo, which he said he thought could have gone bad in all sorts.
Yeah.
Random, like he just walked in and said, "Tattoo me."
I think he actually wrote a script that then just pulled in a bunch of tattoos and picked one at random. And he's actually designing apps that he wants to provide so other people can randomize things in their life. Anyway, he just wound up with, I think, some Celtic thing or whatever. So it wasn't actually that bad.
Yeah, fortunately, the total set of tattoos is not exactly random. There's a certain tendency toward Celtic that probably saved him in that case.
I just thought this Randonaut thing was hilarious, and anyway, it's a lot of fun.
It's very Reddit. Reddit reminds me
of
the sense of humor of Reddit reminds me of a smart high schooler.
I
that kind of a lot of irony and. All right, well, since we're in the Reddit vein, let me share a Reddit subreddit that Karsten shared with me. For a long time, I was a fan of the subreddit Yes, 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 where you watch a video where somebody tries something daring and unusual and makes it. But it's a fait accompli. You know they're going to make it. Then I started watching No, 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 where somebody tries something and it turns out to be really stupid.
Nice.
But Karsten said, no, no, no. You shouldn't follow No, No, No or Yes, Yes, Yes. You should follow Maybe, Maybe, Maybe. These are videos from Yes, Yes, Yes and No, 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 but they don't telegraph the results. So you don't know if it's going to go well. For instance, here's a woman attempting to cross an icy street. Will it go well or poorly? We don't know. Maybe, maybe, no. She slipped. But wait, there's more. 2 more people walk and fall in exactly the same way and place. I could watch these all day. Then there's one more thing so that's Maybe, Maybe, Maybe on Reddit. I sprinkle that into my Reddit feed so that I have fun stuff in between all the Trump posts. Then I have to say, the world is going to hell in a handbasket. One of the great rock and roll stations in the Bay Area, you probably know it yourself, Jeff Jarvis, KFOG, is going down. Their owners, I think the number 2 radio company in America, Cumulus, are going to flip it from its rock and roll roots to a simulcast of an existing station that I used to work on for years, KNBR. It'll be all sports. Cumulus said KNBR FM will give sports fans another place to tune in to KNBR. What an addition to the market. I am actually on another Cumulus station in the Bay Area, so I should be very nice about all of this. But it is a great station.
The business is very challenged. It's all old mass media.
It's very challenging. And
it's not a good business.
Frankly, that's why podcasting is on a tear. Oh, that's all I have to say. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of this show. Thank you so much for joining us. I always love doing this because I love these guys. It's a great panel. Mathew Ingram, always a welcome addition to the panel. He's the chief digital writer. Yay! At the Columbia Journalism Review, cjr.org, at Mathew I on the Twitter, spelled correctly with a mere single T. Don't be confused by that other Mathew. Thank you, Mathew. I appreciate it. Are you back from the cottage? No, you're still in the cottage.
Oh, I am still at the cottage. Yeah, you'll notice I don't have the book with the
Nazi book has been moved. Thank you.
Behind me, yeah.
You know, I thought about that when you first came on, and I thought how sad that is that Mathew, before he did the show, had to say, "Oh, now I got to move that book again."
No, I didn't. I tilted the camera a different way. So
okay.
It's still there.
Oh, good. Your head's blocking it. Thanks also to Stacey.
To be fair, we should explain that it is not a Nazi book.
No.
The Rise and Fall of the Third
Reich. Was it The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich? Was that? Yes. Yeah, that's one of the greatest books of all time. I read it in high school. I'm rereading it right now. It is because it's so timely.
Maybe too timely.
Yeah, maybe a little too timely, a little too close to home. Thank you, Mathew. Always a pleasure. Stacey, always great. Enjoy. We'll make sure Jeff enjoys a Texas martini and a bowl of queso in your honor. Mexican martini. Which is really a Texan martini, but we won't go on.
We stole it from Mexico.
Oh, like Texas itself. So it's perfect circle. Stacey Higginbotham is at StaceyOnIoT.com, at GigaStacey on the Twitter, and don't forget our fabulous podcast with Kevin Toffel, the IoT podcast, if you want to know all about IoT. Thanks, Stace. And Jeff Jarvis, he is in Austin. I hope you're going to have a good time. What are you there for?
Worrying about trust in journalism.
I love it that you have a longhorn bull in a photo behind you.
I know, it's behind me.
Yeah.
The one.
That's awesome.
I'm at the hotel run by UT Austin. So.
Oh, perfect. Hook 'em horns.
And Carson really wanted me to have queso at the ready on the show, so I could rub it in, but there was no queso.
I do not want to see you rub in queso, but if you wanted to eat it, I'd be okay with that.
That's the only thing I can do with it. I'm keto.
I don't rub in the queso.
I can rub it on my body, though. That might be fun. We do This Week in Google every Wednesday afternoon, 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern, 20:30 UTC. I'd love it if you'd stop by live. You can listen live or watch live at twit.tv/live. That's the live 24-hour stream of our content. You could tap into that on your Google Assistant or your Echo just by saying, Echo, play Twit Live. And if you are watching, listening, voice assistanting live, go into the chat room, irc.twit.tv. You'd have a good time in there. They're all doing the same thing, and they're lots of fun. You can also get on-demand versions of everything we do, because we are, after all, podcasts you love from people you trust. Yes, I gave in, and we're calling them podcasts now. And you can go to twit.tv/twig for every episode, all 600 and some episodes that we've done of this show. How many? No, it's not that many. 523. You can also subscribe in one of your favorite podcast applications. We're there everywhere. Just press the subscribe button in your app, and you'll get it the minute it's available, just in time for your Thursday morning commute. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time on This Week in Google.